Hey everybody, Tech Talk Tuesday. Today is number 139. Thank y'all for watching. I see a few folks clocking in. Let's see who you got. Come on, man. See if we got, yep. I got Charlie up first today. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate you. That was good to see you get in here. Come on, y'all. A few more. There you go, Cash. I like Cash. Great name. Charlie, hey, man. Daryl, yeah, thank you all. I got like I say every week, man, I got some cool stuff to share with you. I got some ideas. Hey, Kevin, thank y'all for coming in. Sam, thank y'all, man. That's great to see cool names coming in here. Appreciate you guys lining out. Bradford. Man, if Bradford had a brother named Cash, his name would be Cash Nash. That would have been cool, wouldn't it? Hey, Brad, that's one of my heroes right there. Bradford Nash is here. Sam here. Hey, buddy. Yep, Jackie says to tell all y'all hi. I told her yesterday she's about time for her to do a tech talk again. So at least she'll help me do one. She doesn't want to do one by herself, but she would. Hey, Seth and Marty. She says she would like to share a little bit with us. And we got some stuff, man. We moved in here in our second home in Tennessee now and finally got the shop. I call it the Man Cave 2.0. Is coming around, and I've got my new bike. I sold Buck. Everybody, thank you. Buck got moved up north, and we're looking forward to seeing how that turns out. Hey, Jack. Hey, Richard. And we have a new one. It's an ex-police bike. It's blue and white, and it's called 5-0. Big 5-0. And I'm going to name the bike. Hey, Kenneth. Good to see you guys. Also, I wanted to tell you that... if you follow me on Facebook, I want to tell you, I also want to say I went by and looked at YouTube, Star Racing GA. Yes, we are Star Racing in Tennessee now, but back in the day, we have a YouTube channel that was called Star Racing GA. That's where these videos are. So if you ever want to see one of the 138 that you didn't see, most of them, I'd say 120 of them are on YouTube, and there might be in chronological order, and some of them were done 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, but we're at 139 weeks in a row this week, and when we get to 156, that'll be 3 years. Isn't that right? 52, 52, 52. Yeah, it's 156. Yeah, it's good math, and I never was good at math. But anyway, back to the story about being here and doing YouTube, and this is my Facebook page, and if you guys are watching me live right now, you know it. You're watching me live on my Facebook page, yep. And Facebook has been good. A lot of people have different opinions about Facebook. You know, it's the devil's on Facebook and bad stuff, and there's bad people, and you can learn so. No, Facebook is what you make of it, just like your life. Your life can be wonderful. Your life can be bad. You can have tough times. You can also go on Facebook and try and find trouble. You can go on Facebook and you can try and find help. You can go on Facebook and find people that have the same passion as me and you, which is hot rod engines, high performance, gasoline burning, hydrocarbon fueled V8s, V2s, V1s, Kevin 1-cylinders, 4-cylinder, 6, 12, 8. I love them. You put gas in them and you suck, the piston goes down and it fills up with fuel and air, and then you squeeze it tight and then light it, and then it goes bang, and then your exhaust valve has to open and you push it back out. You are a nut for Facebook like me. Like the lobby of a coffee shop. Great point. But back to the Facebook difference, and then of course I'll put a little snip on my Instagram page, and then Jackie will take this and record it and put it on YouTube. Now, there's a lot of comments on YouTube. A lot of people look at it. Thank you. I'm thankful for it. But I don't go on there because actually I am busier than just people. My competition says you sure got a lot of time to work on social media, but I really don't. I mean, I try my best to spend a couple hours, maybe a day, which is a lot for me, on my social media stuff, because I keep up the Star Racing page on Facebook. I keep up my own personal page on Facebook. And I also have Instagram, which is doing really well. And then, of course, our YouTube channel. But I don't frequent, hey, thank you, Jim. I don't frequent the YouTube like you think I would. Because if you want to ask me a question and you're watching it on live on Facebook and you see it later on YouTube, there's some people on there that are like bragging on it, love it. There's some people on there that said, one guy said, I asked questions 36 weeks in a row and never got a response, so I'm out of here. I don't want to watch you no more. Well, I'm sorry. He's asking in the wrong place. So I'm not avoiding you. I'm not trying to get around you. I am trying to share as much as I can. This is an effort to share information that I think I know based on all these years that I've been racing. Cars, motorcycles, everything. So if you have a question on, and you see somebody on our YouTube channel, Star Racing GA, ask them to come on over to Facebook. And I don't do Facebook. Okay, well, if you don't ask a question where I frequent, I can't answer it. That's simple. Sorry. All right, today we got some really cool stuff. One guy, okay, why don't top fuel bikes use crankcase vacuum pumps? Well, that's a good thing to talk about another day. But listen, they got so much blow by. Vacuum pump couldn't keep up. The vacuum pump would have to be as big as a supercharger. Also, do you know how much horsepower it takes to drive a supercharger on a top fueler? I heard a rumor that even on a top fuel car like like Brittany Force's car, it takes 2,000 horsepower to spin the supercharger at the speed they run the supercharger, and that takes, like, you need two 454s just to turn their supercharger, and then the net gain from the nitromethane and the unbelievable Hemi with the supercharge, 55 pounds of boost and 13 gallons of nitromethane. It has so much blow-by that the pressure in the combustion chambers and the pressure in the cylinders that makes the fire go in the sky 30 feet high, that blows so much pressure in the bottom end that they have to have big, giant open pipes from the crankcase into another can that's 2 times bigger than the engine. And I think on the top fuelers, the can is between the wheels and the back. Funny cars, they have the can behind the driver in the back, and the can, it fills up with crankcase pressure, and when that crankcase pressure goes up to a certain height, the engine blows up and oil goes all over the racetrack. So when we raced the close call phone car back in the day with Jim Head, he had a top fuel car that was on our team, and he was pitted next to us, and he had a pressure sensor in his crankcase, in his oil pan, and it had a big red light on the dash, big red light, and he would take off down the track, and that red light would come on, he would lift. And he said that red light showed when there was X amount of pressure in the bottom end, and if he was fast enough to lift when the red light came on, he could actually stop the oil down. So here's Jim Head going down the track, going into low force, and the red light comes on. He lifts and pulls over by the wall instead of ruining the show, because when you lose an engine now on those cars, it takes them 30 minutes to clean up, and when we're live on TV, it's a pretty sad show to watch. So it was a good idea. And there's a lot of things in progress now where they're measuring all that stuff. And you see the crew chiefs now have these on and off switches where the crew chief can shut the car off. I don't know if you knew that, but on TV, they always hand him the box. And it's got an antenna on it. He's got a switch. And when his car goes down the track and he sees something go wrong, he cuts the car off. Opens the parachutes, cuts the car off. Even when the driver, like John Force, he wants to keep going, even if it's on fire, sideways, blowing up, throwing the rods out, he's still hanging in there. So that's what the crew chief controls now. That's a new deal. Not new this year, but it's been going on. But anyway, that's one question that somebody asked. Also, I wanted to tell you that another thing that we're doing is, let's go to the board before I ramble too much. There we go. I wanted to tell you guys, this is Tech Talk number 139. And I got on my killer whale socks today. I forgot to show them last week, but people ask me all the time, what kind of socks you got on? But God loves killer whales too. They're part of the circle of life. If we didn't have killer whales, there'd be too many of something. Whatever they eat, there would be too many of them. But the circle of life reminds me of the engine running 720 degrees. We got 180 of intake stroke, 180 of compression, 180 of power, and then 180 of exhaust. And it's the circle of the 4-stroke engine. So I know that was a stupid analogy, but bear with me. I wanted to tell you about a little bit about what's going on the internet these days that you read, I read, we see. And now there are these programs you can click on. You it says click this link here, and it will show you a formula where you put in your compression ratio, your cylinder cc's, your head cc's, your dome cc's, and your intake valve closing timing number, and it will tell you what they call a corrected compression ratio. But I'm telling you, y'all, this is a show about my opinions, not everybody else's opinion. So if you get your feelings hurt about cranking compression, what we call corrected compression ratio, those are not really things. Those are words and things that were invented by people that make programs. It's all math. They just take a program where they did the math, made a spreadsheet out of it, turned it into a link, and now you got the click and point and choose buttons. You can say, if my cylinder head was 80 cc's, it would be this much. If my cylinder head was 90 cc's, it would be this much. And then if the intake valve closes here on the intake stroke, or if my intake valve closes here on my intake stroke, it will change the compression ratio of the engine, and they call it a dynamic compression ratio. Is something we used to theorize and talk about as an option. Now it's returned the gospel corrected compression ratio. Now, let me tell you a couple things about measuring it that way. There's only, in my world, in my engine building world, when we had a camshaft that would control the valve train, and we had a valve spring that would control the valve, and we had a camshaft that could be controlled with the rate of lift and the amount of duration and how high we would lift it and how soon we had to shut it, how soon we had to open it in order to fill the cylinder at the RPM that we wanted. If you've got a fast car, Milwaukee 8, or a Pro Stock car, or a Circle Track car, and you want to make peak power at 7,000 RPM, why would you care what the compression ratio is or the cranking compression ratio is at the starter speed? The starter speed might be 200 RPM, might be 400 RPM, might be 500 RPM. But when the starter's going, that tells you how much pop, 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 pop is coming through the spark plug hole. And if you have a nice hydraulic cam, like we do on all our M8 stuff, a hydraulic lifter, we have this ramp like this pink one. It just comes in like an airplane landing, so smooth that it has like fresh eggs on board, or really, really rich people, they can't stand a crash landing. So it comes in and lands, and it takes 30, 40, 50 degrees to land. 30, 40, or 50 degrees to land and put the valve on the seat so it's quiet, so you can't hear it, so it doesn't make noise in your head, so it doesn't go clack, 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 clack. So if you put a solid lifter in, back like we had in the 60s, we used to could buy an L88 with solid lifters. It had a landing ramp that looked kind of like this green one right here. It would just come on in and land. Had good landing gear, had good stuff, and it would sound off so bad. It would go clack, 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 clack. And if you wanted it to be louder, all you had to do was go in there to the rock arm and back off that nut, three-quarter nut on there. You could back it off about a turn, and that rock arm in there going clack, 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 clack. It'd be spanking the valve, opening it, spanking the valve, closing it, and it would make so much noise, it would just make you sound like your engine was coming apart. Nowadays, 2022, you can't have valve train noise. Your engine has to be quiet. They put microphones on them, and they go through there and they say they got padding on the hood. They got these big covers on the engines now, have all this insulation on them, and it's for sound deadening, it's not trying to protect the paint. It's not trying to keep the heat off the hood paint. It's trying to keep the noise out your ears. Because if your engine makes noise, you are not a happy camper now. So if you have a Milwaukee 8 and you put something in it that makes it go really fast, and you can hear some noise coming back out of the air cleaner, you can hear it, put your head down by the rock arm boxes or down by the valve covers, and you can hear it going clack, 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 clack. And when you're riding along and you get it just at that right throttle, opening, it sounds like it's coming apart. Well, now the cam designers have to put in these soft landing ramps and these soft opening ramps, and they have to put a hydraulic lifter in that will absorb all that. And then this goes into more and more names and more time. But I'm going to move this right over here, and I'm going to drop this camera down just enough. Mind the noise. I'm going to rattle the camera here a minute. Hold on. All right. This is the opening of the cam lobe. I'm going to call this the intake lobe. This is where it opens. This is where it goes to full lift, and this is where it comes back, and this is where it sits back on the seat. The center of this lobe is the lobe center. And I know the smart guys on here and the people that have been doing this their whole life, they do know that the lobe center is peak lift. So when somebody says, well, what's the lobe center? Well, guess what? It's where the valve is open the most. It doesn't matter if it's 108, 117, 100, 98. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's just a number. That's like, it's just a benchmark. We have to have something to work off of. Okay, so this cam is in at 100, okay? Well, the lobe center is at 100. That means that the intake valve is at full lift at 100 degrees after top dead center. Top dead center on a degree wheel, when your piston's sitting at the top and your engine turns all the way over to 100 after top dead center, that's where full lift is. That means that the cam lobe center is on 100. What matters, though, is where does this valve close. It doesn't matter where the lobe center is. It matters where the valve closes. Yes, it matters. Yes, don't let me say it doesn't matter. Let me just say where the center of this cam is not as important as where it closes, because this valve, all intake valves close on the compression stroke. And that's another diagram I'll have to show you another day, but I want to show you that look at these two camshafts. They both have the same closing number at 50 lift. In other words, the valve's coming off full lift, it's coming down on the seat, and at 50 thou before it lands, it's 30 degrees. Let's just call it. This valve closes at 30 after bottom dead center. That is, I think our 30-30 cam that's pretty popular now, it closes at 25 after. Our 3/4 cam is really popular, makes a lot of power. It closes at 42. So let's use those numbers. The 30-30 closes at 25, 30-30, and the 3/4 closes at 42. This is that 50 thou where we measure that. So if I was to use this brown marker and say this is closing at 25, what would a 42 closing look like? It would mean that it was over here. That means if this is 25 after bottom, or after full lift, after bottom, sorry, not after full lift, and then this one closes, the 30-30 closes at 25 after bottom, and the 3/4, let me start over. Black, I got all mixed up. You know this is live, y'all. You know it's live, so I'm bound to mix up my names, numbers, and forget what I was saying, but let's back right up. All right. 50 before closing with the 30-30 cam, it closes at 25 degrees after bottom. That's 25 degrees after bottom dead center. If you put the 3/4 cam in it, it's a more racy cam. It's made for more RPM up high. So we close the valve at 50. We close it at 42 after bottom. So that's this between these two lines. 25 is on, it closes early. This one closes late. The full race cam closes at 52. So that lobe would look like this. So the 30-30 closes soon. The 3/4 closes a little bit later, and the full race closes way late. That allows us to trap more air at high RPM. But the internet and all of us people and all of our friends and all of our constituents and friends and fans and all the people that read the internet, they get confused about the cranking compression and the corrected compression ratio. Whereas this engine, if it has 10-to-1, it has 10-to-1. If it has 11-to-1, it has 11-to-1. If you put a 30-30 in it, it's going to make a lot of power down low and less power up high. But if you put 11-to-1 compression, 12-to-1 compression ratio, 10-to-1 compression ratio, whatever you want in this engine, and you put the 30-30 in, it's going to trap air early, and it's going to make power on the left side of the dyno. If you put the 3/4 cam in, and it's going to close the valve later, and it's going to trap air at a higher RPM. Same compression ratio. If you put the full race cam, the 615 in it, it's going to close the valve later, and it's going to trap more air in later in RPM. That's what matters, not the compression ratio, y'all. Compression ratio is, if you want a lot of compression, you got to run race gas. If you want a low compression ratio, you can run any gas and you can run around on the highway. But if you put the full race cam in on a street engine that has low compression, it's going to be a little bit soggy down low, but it's going to haul butt when you get it revved up to 6,000. If you put a 15-to-1 engine together with the 30-30 cam, it's going to make so much power down low that you're going to be shocked at the amount of torque it can make with this little of a cam. Don't matter about how much the head flows, don't matter how big the throttle body is, doesn't matter how poor it is. This is what dictates where it makes the power. This intake valve closes early, makes power early. Intake valve closes a little later, makes power a little later. Intake valve closes really late, it makes power really late. And when I'm talking about late, I'm talking about dyno time. I'm talking about on the street. Notice also where I put the lift curve over here. The lift axis, 100, 200, 300, 400 lift. Your rocker arm ratio, I think in the Milwaukee 8 is 1.61, 1.60. So let's take a 380 lift cam. This is like a 380 right here. 380 lift. 380 times the rocker ratio. 0.380 times 1.61 equals. That's a 611 camshaft. Now, most of us don't know this, and everybody who watches this doesn't know this, but a 611 or a 615 cam only has 300 and something lift. The lobe has only 300 lift, and the rocker arm ratio gives you what it's called. Like if you want to do it backwards, you could take the 30-30 cam, and the 30-30 cam has 485 lift divided by the rocker ratio, 1.61 equals. That is a 300 lift lobe, 301. So when you buy a 30-30 cam, it is only a 300 lift, 301.2 times the rocker ratio gives you the 385 that it has. That's just news. A lot of folks didn't know that. I just wanted to share that. And one more thing I get questions about every day is they want to know what push rods are used. And everybody uses the quickie push rod or the fueling push rod or a solid or stock push rod with the different cams. And that depends on the base circle, which if you're interested in that, please ask me about it. Please send me a note and I will definitely, that's right, Jack, it's net lift. So you can take this. This is a Screaming Eagle push rod, and I am not a huge fan of anything but that, but I do know there's a lot of push rods on the market. This one has a mark, a little dot right here. It's got a circle. You can use that to say that I turn this push rod one turn. Where's the dot? There it is. That was one full turn. 2 full turns. It's hard to see on this. There's 2 full turns. All right, how much preload? All right, let's go back. Put the push rod in the lifter. Turn it over till the lifter is as far down as it will go. And it's sitting at the bottom on the heel of the cam. And then you take this push rod and you run it down till there's no more slop. Push rod won't move up and down at all. It's got 0 lash. Then you can count how many turns you want to preload the lifter. I want to preload the lifter. 2 turns, just say 2 turns. That's 1. That's 2. That's 2 full turns. And if you want to know how much you preloaded the lifter, you can measure right in here. And it will tell you how much you preloaded the lifter. If you have a travel limiter lifter where it says it only has 100 thou travel, I would put it halfway, which is 50 thou. There's also some issues of how many threads per inch. This one has this many threads per inch. I don't know what it is, but I know if I go to 0 and I turn this push rod down 2 full turns, it will put 100 thousandths preload. 1 turn is about 50. 2 turns is about 100. Let's verify that. because that was just an opinion. All right, let's try and get where we can read the numbers on this unit. It's hard to see in the dark. Okay, there it is. All right, let's turn this. This is 0. All right, let's turn this push rod 1 full turn. There it is. That's 1 turn. Yeah, it's about 38 or 40. 2 full turns. There you go. 85 thou, 2 full turns. That's enough preload for the lifter. Some people want it to go into the bottom of the lifter and they want to go 4 turns. All right, let's see what that would be. That's 3 turns. There's 4 turns. You should know this before you put it in. That one is 165, and the lifter's only got 200 travel. So if you go 4 turns, you're running the piston inside that lifter, you're running it all the way at the bottom. And the only reason, in my opinion, is we have these hydraulic lifters is to take care and make this smooth landing ramp where it won't make noise when the valve shuts. We want it to be a smooth landing. Have you ever been on an airplane and a guy came in hot and it felt like he broke the wheels off of it? Yeah, you don't want that in your motorcycle or your car. You want it to be a nice smooth landing. That's what we have with these hydraulic cams. That's why our cams, our 30-30, our 3/4, and our 615 are quiet. They don't make all that rattling noise because they have nice smooth ramps. And if you want to know what the closing number is for you to figure your corrected compression ratio, what is the lift? Are you at 45 thousandths lift before the seat? Are you 55? Are you 60? Are you 20? Are you 30? Because that makes a huge difference. But it won't change the performance of the motorcycle, y'all. I don't care if it's 10 to 1, 11 to 1, 12 to 1, and you got this landing at 25 after, or 42 after, or 52 after. The compression ratio is still whatever you did. You drip the head, it has 100 cc's, 80 cc's, 90 cc's. The piston dome, it might be negative piston dome cc's, it might be positive dome piston cc's, but it's the bore times the stroke. It is how much cylinder it has plus the chamber. Then you shove the piston back up in there and do the math, and it will give you compression ratio. This trapping right here, these trapping times, that is just a math formula when you come up with a corrected compression ratio. Please don't let that dictate what kind of engine you use. The camshaft needs to work for the power band you want, and then you put enough compression ratio into it to use the gasoline or the fuel you're going to use. And if you're going to run a low compression engine, a 10 to 1, 11 to 1, which I call low compression, and you've got soft timing maps in it for ignition timing, get aggressive with it if you don't like how much power it makes down low. Put a little timing in it. If there's no cylinder pressure to spark knock the fuel or to detonate the fuel, put a little timing advance in it. I've run out of time. I got up on the tire. I talked a lot about it. I hope I didn't confuse you too much with the intake valve closing numbers, but I am not a fan of cranking compression ratios because it matters how fast a starter is. If your starter runs 100, 200, 300, 400 RPM, it could be 50 pounds difference in your cranking compression. It should be over 200 and it should be less than 300. If your engine has less than 200, cranking compression is probably pretty weak. If your engine has, somebody go on here and write us back. Check a stock Milwaukee 8. Check a stock Milwaukee 8 and tell me what the cranking compression is on it. Bet you'll be shocked. It's a lot. That's why a stock Milwaukee 8, if you go to the Harley shop, buy it, and you go out and ride it with some 89 or 91 octane in it, and you crowd it down at 2,000 or 3,000 RPM, it will spark knock with stock compression ratio. And it's not because of the corrected compression or corrected compression ratio. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. May God bless y'all. Thank you for watching. Let me come back, tell y'all thank you. If you got your feelings hurt because of my opinions, I'm sorry, but they're mine, they're not yours. I'm only sharing what I think I know. I'm not telling you it's the right thing. It's not the right thing. I'm just telling you what I think I know. It's my opinion. It's how I do it. And I'd love to share more with you. I'd love to tell you more. Give me feedback. Tell me. I'd like to know more about that. I'd like to know less about that. I love what you're talking about. I don't care what you're talking about. Let me know. I'll be glad to share with you. May God bless y'all. Thank you for watching. Next week, 140 Tuesdays in a row. Have a great night.